So a couple of months ago, a certain game caught my eye during a Sony State of Play. And that game was f.i.s.t. Forged in Shadow Torch. And I don't know if it was because it's a Metroidvania game, which I do like Metroidvania style games, or if it's because it was a rabbit with a giant mechanical fist attached to its back, just beating everything up in front of it. But I thought to myself, you know what? I'll check this game out when it releases in a couple of months, which it just recently came out on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, and it's going to be heading to PC later on this year. It released at a price of $30, although it was on sale when I picked it up. Basically, I grabbed it at like 11:30 and started playing it at midnight, and the next day I played it for a couple more hours, and then I get an email from the company asking if I want to do a sponsored video for it, so I had to figure out a way to pretend like I hadn't already been playing the game for like 5 or 6 hours. Anyway, we're doing a sponsored video here for it today, just to be completely transparent. But my one stipulation was I can just talk about it normally and not just sit here and attempt to make a commercial for you about the game. They agreed to that, and mostly that's because the game's actually good. So today, let's talk about f.i.s.t. Forged in Shadow Torch. Now, they did send over some notes about the game, but like I said, I've already been playing it for a while now, so I'm pretty familiar with it already. But they described it as a 3D Metroidvania action game. However, it does take place in like a 2D plane. It's a side-scroller, so I guess you describe it as like a 2.5D style game, right? It's developed by Thai Games. This is part of that PlayStation China Hero project, and it's a program that was set up to support smaller Chinese developers, mostly startups, is what they point out here on the PlayStation website. Now, this was revealed during that State of Play in July, and when I first saw it, like I said, I felt like it was the fact that it was so different looking because it was a rabbit with the giant mechanical fist attached to their back. However, the game itself is a lot deeper than I was expecting when it comes to the combat and even the exploration. So let's talk about the visuals first. It does leverage Unreal Engine 4, and the visuals across the board are solid. I'd say the character models look pretty good, but where it really shines are the backgrounds. There's a lot of detail, a lot of things going on in the background at times. For example, when I was going through the town itself, there were like cars underneath of the bridge driving back and forth. There are a lot of like character interactions and different models in the background doing things. And there's always like this sense of depth, even when you're in like the sewers, for example. There's stuff going on in the background to make it feel like it's not just a 2D side scroller, like there's still a whole other world kind of behind you in the distance. I do want to mention one thing. If you decide to look into this, I noticed when I bought it that there's 2 different versions on the PlayStation Store, and you can almost accidentally download the wrong version. There's a PS4 and a PS5 version. So if you have a PS5, you want the PS5 option, obviously, because this does run at 4K 60. If you get it on the PS4, I believe it's 1080p, and the way the PS5's set up, you might end up just running the PS4 version by accident. So make sure you have the right one selected when you go to download it. Now, the game is a pretty standard Metroidvania in the sense that you explore a very large map, which they describe over 10 different areas. And like I said, I've played through a solid 6-7 hours or so. Now, they are saying it takes about 15 hours to just play through the game regularly, and then about 30 hours total to do everything in the game. And I feel like the thing with this game, as I'm going through it, it does have that pull of what's over there. So you come up to a pathway, of course it splits. Metroidvania style games, we all have that thought of, I'm going to go off the other way that's not necessarily pointed towards the main objective, so I can figure out if there is some sort of item, some sort of upgrade for my health, or any of this, and this game does that really well. Of course, you will get items and different abilities that unlock pathways. For example, the ability to dash straight upwards, which when I got it had like this Mega Man X looking capsule. But the idea is the game continues to keep you exploring and wanting more, because your character does legitimately get stronger as you play through it, and a lot of that works into finding upgrades, items, and different currency to use for your skill tree. So you have an entire skill tree that works more so into the combat system. And as you get money in the game, you can then spend it along with data discs that are use to unlock certain more powerful moves as you go through. And that kind of leads into the best part of f.i.s.t, and that has to do with the combat, and it's certainly not something I was expecting to be as deep as it is here in this game. See, when you go and you start playing f.i.s.t, it starts out fairly standard. You know, you have some light attacks, you have some heavy attacks, and then you start to chain them together in longer and longer combos, and there is a sense of purpose when you kind of perform these combos. So rather than just doing a couple of slaps at an enemy in certain Metroidvania games, which you will do, this one really has you think about the combos you're doing, alternating between heavy, light, and even grab. So, for example, there is one move that I had where I would go into a whirlwind and then I would throw a very heavy punch afterwards, which is something you'll get as you upgrade kind of that skill tree for the f.i.s.t side. But there is this sense of like a split-second pause that you need to do when you input this move, or it won't work correctly. So you do have to at least think and plan out your different moves, because trust me, if you are not doing that correctly, the enemies will at times no-sell some of your moves and then just slap you across the room, especially certain bosses. Something I think I would have liked to have seen, at least so far where I am in the game, is a way to cancel out of your combos. I understand there's that sense of, okay, you really have to do this correctly or you will be punished for it. But the idea of being able to maybe parry certain things without having to select an item that has a depleting bar, or just being able to cancel out, would, I think, be very helpful, especially in certain bosses and even smaller enemies where so many of them are around you and they kind of group up. Now, there are also several weapons that you'll get. They have 3 of them, and they do change things up quite a bit. Some of these weapons will even have you traversing different parts of the map that you would not have been able to otherwise. But then they throw them into the combat. There's a whole other combo system for them that are way different. Some may, for example, be more area affecting weapons with the combos that you'll do. You can even pull enemies in. Like I said, I don't want to get too in depth with that part, because I did kind of get spoiled for one of them that changes the game up again completely. Just know that some of the weapons you do get outside of just the f.i.s.t really changes things up when it comes to combo and the game itself with exploration. The story's been okay so far. They are slowly explaining more of the character's backstory. I mean, it starts off pretty straightforward. You have a friend that gets captured by like the main corporation bad guys, and you revitalize the f.i.s.t, and then you go off to try to rescue him, and then it kind of really starts to snowball from there with old rivals and everything else. They even have some pretty interesting flashbacks, try to work up, I guess, to where we are now in the game's story. So it's a story that at least keeps things moving along, is what I'll say, well enough to make you want to see what's next for him. But so far, I'm really enjoying my time with f.i.s.t Forged in Shadow Torch, and I recommend it for anyone right now who's looking for the next Metroidvania fix, but wouldn't mind trying something a little different when it comes to the combat, that's a bit more thoughtful and purposeful when it comes to the combos, especially, like I said, when you start getting the other weapons and you can change between them on the fly. There's a lot to do here and kind of customize that aspect. But if you've already picked up f.i.s.t Forged in Shadow Torch, let me know what you think about it so far. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.